Hi, UW families. Welcome to the final episode of the second season of the Husky Huddle Up podcast. Jannah and I are really excited to huddle up with Emily Kolby, who is the new director of first year engagement here at the University of Washington, as well as Chloe Jiselle, who is our student coordinator of remote logistics. And, you know, not only is this the final episode of the second season, this is also my final episode as I am leaving the University of Washington and making my way over to Southern California, where I will be making the move to San Diego. And so, you know, over the past month, I've actually had the pleasure of working with Emily, who was hired in our position to really get her onboarded and trained and ready to go with her new venture here at the University of Washington. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Carlos. I'm absolutely honored to be here and honored to be moving into your role and just having this unique experience of getting to work with you for the past month. And now sad that you'll be departing, and I guess that's the nature of our position right now. But thank you, and excited to be here with you.
That's very, very true. I'm very excited to have been able to work with you as well. And Chloe, welcome to the podcast as well. You've been a part of these podcasts throughout the past season, and so we're excited to also have you on the other side of the microphone, on the other side of the computer, to be here with us as well.
Thank you. I think this time it's more different because now it's all of us. Normally, like with the student perspective, like, yeah, I'm behind the microphone, but now it's like the real deal.
It's true.
She's ready. She's ready.
Yeah. Well, Emily, I wanted to, we wanted to give you an opportunity to give you, a little bit of a chance to introduce yourself as well. What's your story? What's your background as you join us here with the Husky family?
Thank you so much for asking. So I am originally from Massachusetts. So Emily Kolby is my name. I use she, her pronouns. I was born and raised in Attleboro, Massachusetts, which is about 45 minutes south of Boston. As this is actually my very first podcast. And even though I say I'm from Massachusetts, I'm a little bit sad I don't have that Boston accent. If I go home and I visit my family, they all have it, but for some reason, when I moved out to the Pacific Northwest, I lost whatever accent I had. My grandfather used to say, "Oh, Emily, you have a Pacific Northwest accent." I don't think that's a thing, but I'll always remember that. But growing up, my mother was an elementary school teacher. My dad taught community college, so he was an adjunct music instructor at the Community College of Rhode Island. And then he most recently taught at Wheaton College in Massachusetts, music history and theory, and then retired a couple of years ago. And so when thinking about why higher education, why moving into this space, I just have a lot of very fond, very formative memories of being with my dad on campus, sitting in the back of his classrooms and coloring. And then, let's see, I went away to college. I went very far, 3,000 miles to the University of Puget Sound. And I often get a lot of questions about, why did you go that far? How did you do it? But my older sister, I have a sister who's 3 years older, and she went to college in California and then put me on all the mailing lists up and down the West Coast.
Very smart.
Right? I know. And so I'm really thrilled that, for my family, they were okay with me going that far. And I think it was sort of this, okay, we're going to do this. And then I set foot on campus at the University of Puget Sound and didn't know anyone else. And so one of the reasons that I'm really excited to be in this role and working with first year students, incoming transfer students, and parents and families is just remembering those memories of how special that time was. And my dad came and helped move me in. He bought me at the time a 30-foot Ethernet cable. Now we all have Wi-Fi, but I still have this Ethernet cable, and just his support during that time. And then also being so inspired by those who were leading orientation. I was a resident assistant for 3 years in college. I absolutely adored my faculty advisor, who I'm still in touch with. And so when it came time to thinking about, okay, what do you want to do? I was an English major and absolutely loved all of my courses. And so how can I really form that into a career and think about that? So I did a year of graduate school at Western Washington University, worked in their tutorial center, and then most recently coming from Bellevue College, where I've worked for 15 years in academic advising there.
Awesome. Talk to us a little bit about kind of your, like, why UW? How did you, what was that? I mean, I was part of the interview, so I know, but for our listening audience, like, what was that motivation to make the move from Bellevue College to the University of Washington and into this role?
Thanks so much for asking. And I have been asked this, I think, a number of times over the past few months and during the interview process, and really reflecting on, now that I've lived in Washington for so long. When I moved here, I really didn't know much about the University of Washington. But being on the UW campus, I am excited each day when I come to work and I see the fountain, I see Mount Rainier. There is something so very special about this place. Working in academic advising at Bellevue College, the majority of our students were transfer students, so about 54% of students at Bellevue transferred, and then the majority of them transferred to the University of Washington. And so being on that side for so long and working with the advisors here at UW and working with students to plan for that transfer, I had always been sort of intrigued about, okay, what does it look like here at the University of Washington? And then I will share too, this is the first time that I've worked at a D1 institution. So I'm excited to wear purple. I went to my first Husky football game a couple of weeks ago. I think there, again, this energy about this place, about the innovation, the people who I'll get to work with. Again, Carlos, I'm so sad that you're leaving. But again, just everyone has been so welcoming here. So it's just such a wonderful place, and all of the collaboration, the innovation. And then I think the scale too. I think here at this time in my career, with this challenge of, okay, how do we individualize the new student experience? How do we make sure that each student is connected with someone, with resources, with a space, with this individualized journey that really speaks to them and their identity and their sense of belonging? But then we're doing this on such a massive scale, which is really exciting, and this really amazing opportunity. And then I'll also add too, I didn't share this before in talking about my educational journey, but I'm also a current doctoral student at Oregon State University. I do have my tickets for that football game, so OSU versus UW on November 4th. I'm not quite sure what I'll wear yet, but have really enjoyed my doctoral program through Oregon State, and it's in adult and higher education, so working on a PhD in that, and just finished my coursework a couple of weeks ago. Actually, no, I guess it was about a month ago, right before I jumped in to work here, finished up classes, and now beginning to focus on my dissertation, and really, again, that interest in working with transfer students and how community colleges and universities can work together, and really the benefits for students of transfer in whatever way works for them. So that's a interest of mine, and ways that I can support students, and then families of transfer students as well.
We're definitely lucky to have you, for sure.
I just wanted to add that if parents were kind of taking a list, I think Emily has gone to every school, it seems like, on the Pacific Northwest. So if there are questions about all of those experiences and just the depth and breadth of knowledge for those particular experiences, not just for first year, but transfers, but then extending out to families, I think you all might understand why she is joining us here at the University of Washington. So I'm so happy to have you here, Emily.
Thank you. And thank you for that reflection too, because again, why UW? Well, I think that was sort of the last institutional type too. So yes, happy to answer questions, happy to support, and again, just really happy to be here. And so actually, I'm excited to learn from all of you. Again, as I said, this is my first podcast. So if it's okay, I have some questions for you
Definitely.
in reflecting.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. And whoever wants to answer, but I think first and foremost, as I'm looking through the episodes and listening to them, what has been your favorite episode to do?
Uh-oh, it's like picking a favorite child.
I know.
Okay, I'm gonna cheat like just a little.
Go for it.
Season 1 is this conversation with our career and internship center with CJ Sanchez. I remember, I think we were having a really nice conversation about how we help support our students as they explore careers, look for internships, even from the first year standpoint. But I felt a really lovely spark of energy when he started talking about the UW Career Closet, which was actually something that kind of came organically from their team about how to, and this is of course pre-pandemics when you go to these really wonderful corporate spaces or academic spaces to interview, and making sure that they have business and clothing attire that will make them feel as strong, as successful, and confident as they walk in. And everyone at UW was asked to donate a piece of gently used business friendly attire, and they were moved by the amount of support. Um, and then CJ was very moved about the amount of reaction and um, engagement that they had with students, and how he would help them kind of transform. And I just really loved that conversation, and it helped kind of say, this is why we're having, this is why we want to have the podcast. Because yes, we talk about steps, guides, protocols, process, all of that stuff. But that was the most wonderful tactile thing I think I can kind of imagine. And hopefully families got a chance to listen to that episode.
Yeah, that one was really really good too. I think they even talked about how like they ran out of space that they got so many donations. So that was kind of a really cool thing. I feel like I learned a lot about all the episodes, right? Like I think I walked away with new knowledge that we could share with first year students, with first year families. I'm also going to go back to the first season when we interviewed Chef Tracy, who
Yes.
is the executive chef of UW Dining Services. And you know, I feel like we've talked about this. If anybody's familiar with the Netflix series called Chef's Table, where they really go in depth about a chef's perspective and approach to their craft. And I felt like it was that we were on that sort of like show, right? Like we were able to get some really great information about like, you know, Chef Tracy's background and, you know, her approach to food and, you know, trying to make a welcoming environment through food here at the University of Washington. And then even just the approach to like, you know, the intentionality that goes behind building dining centers and, you know, reducing waste and trying to be as inclusive as possible in terms of different cuisines and different dietary restrictions and all that kind of stuff. It was just a really fulfilling episode that I feel like, you know, it made me feel really good about, you know, being associated with the University of Washington in terms of the way that we approach dining. So that was always really fun.
I agree.
You know, I also really like, what's up?
No, did you remember how she used the kitchen as her educational space? It was her classroom. She also like talked about how she looks at all of the student workers at housing at dining as potential chefs. You know, so even at the chef level, it feels like there's always this moment of learning and educating. And I don't know, I felt like we hit some really good strides there. So sorry to interrupt. I just remember that aspect of it. It was that's such a good episode. It's like an onion. It's like good.
It's true. It's true. But then also, right, like Chloe, you were able to do some really good interviews with some student leaders. So I feel like those are also like a highlight in my mind in terms of episodes because we normally focus on staff, on professional staff, but Chloe was able to bring in the student perspective, which I think is really important.
I will say those are my favorite ones. More specifically, the first one, just because it was like the first ever video one, but also everybody whom we were discussing and chatting with, we were all OLs together, as orientation leaders together, but then we all moved into different positions within the first year program's office, and like we were still able to still like interact and be together, and we're all still friends now, and we all still talk, and I think that will forever be my biased episode and my favorite episode just because of that.
I have to say, in the month that I have worked in this office, it's been such a pleasure getting to know all of the students and learning from all of you. And then in terms of these podcast episodes too, because I'm just absorbing all of this information, pretending kind of like I'm a transfer student in a way too. But I love how you really highlight these individuals and groups on campus, and have them really open up and talk about passions. Um, Chloe, I wanted to go back to you as well. What do you feel like as a student that you're going to take away from this experience?
So many things all at once. I've been working within the first year program's office for about like 3 years now. I started as an orientation leader. I've worked my way into a student coordinator position within the advising and orientation program. I'm about to be a FIG leader this upcoming autumn quarter. Also about to be a student assistant as well. Then too, I feel like the most that I've taken away from this experience is knowing that there are always people around who like want to help you or aren't available to help you, because I've always struggled to be like, oh, I need help, but like I'm just gonna sit here and struggle for a little bit and seem lost before I get the courage to ask for help. As well as just like all of the different things that like have helped build kind of what I want to do, and like kind of like experiencing more, oh, like I'm more interested in this within like cinema and media. So like I'm kind of like now veering like this is the direction I want to go, kind of like live production and like just editing in general, instead of more like, oh, front facing camera working. It's more like, oh, like I kind of like just the live portion of it and getting to interact with these people. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I'm taking from this.
For all of you and interacting together, like what have you learned in general about this process? I think, I've sat in on one behind the scenes, and now I'm here on the podcast today, and what Chloe is talking about, getting to sit here and talk. What have you learned about that interaction and the podcast conversations and the logistics?
I mean, I feel like there are so many, as much as the university is so large, and in some ways, sometimes like not very well connected, is that it's the people who are in these offices and in these positions that really do the work to get to know each other, to communicate with each other, and to really make kind of the gears of the university work. So I feel like, through all of this, it's been really it's been a really positive experience to get to know the individuals that are behind, the financial aid office, or, the people who are really making sure that students are taken care of in housing and food services. So that, for me, that's really what I've taken away is just those connections, those relationships, and how important it is in order to support such a large group of first year students.
I agree. I also hope that our families can hear how much they care about not just what they do, and just really like that word facilitate, that term, how to make this easy. Our student fiscal services team, when you talk about it and you're like, what is that? It's like they help with a lot of financial transactions between 3 different universities. But what you don't hear is how funny they are, how super like hardcore nerdy and also super fans they are, how they make their office space so fun and accommodating, and And all of that includes the aspect of we need to make sure that students feel supported. So we're going to make sure that they get a message from us that's nice, sweet, friendly, especially when it comes to finances. Like that part is kind of hard to convey in an email or on a website. Um, but you can hear how much they care. And I think I will say during the pandemic, was season like the height of the pandemic was season one, and I selfishly used all of these episodes to stay connected to a job that I literally just got. I mean, I joined UW at 2018. So, making sure that our families were like didn't feel disconnected to campus was also my secret way of staying connected to Carlos, staying connected to like to all of these wonderful people that they collectively are here to support students. And I think we use that term quite a bit, but we wanted to make sure that you heard and have that term feel more activated when you hear their own voice about why they're there, like why we're here. And it's always like, how do we help? How do we support? How do we make things easy? And how do we like get them through so that they can be at Husky Stadium and we can, make noise and enjoy their accomplishments, even from a finance perspective. And I thought that was very heartening. And I think it was just nice for them to raise their hand to do this. This is not something that they're asked to do. This was different and extra. And so I am so grateful for all of the guests that we've had because they've said yes. And yeah, I think it helps. And I'm also really glad that Chloe was a part of it because at some point you're like, you can talk to each other staff to staff, right? Like we're doing this now. But then when they find out that Chloe is involved, I just feel like there's just like another energy boost. They're like, oh, she's running the show. That's what happens in Husky Huddle Up Podcast. Chloe Jiselle Laney is actually running the show. And we're just the little puppets. So
that's
keeping
what I'm
us
learning.
on track.
Yep.
I wouldn't say that I run this show. I feel like I'm just here. I enjoy being here. I enjoy listening. I enjoy like learning more about the campus and coming from that student perspective. Like it also helps to like humanize the campus in a way. Like you think everything's so big because everybody's directing you to like this website, this resource. Like, but it's also remembering like as a student, these are run by like actual real people who do care about you. So it's like good for me to like remember like these people care about you. I'm here. I'm supported in every like aspect of my college experience, and it's really nice to know and really nice to have re-solidified and working through this podcast together.
And the fact that you're able to like gain work experience in a field that you are eventually going to go into. So I think even just hearing your reflection about like, oh yeah, this is really like giving me a good like focus on what could come next for you. So that's pretty awesome.
I love that tie-in with student employment and how cool it is to learn that skill while you're working with professionals, it's just this holistic experience. I also love to hear you talking about the genesis of the podcast and because of the pandemic and how this happened. And I think this is something, coming from another institution where we were also working through these different phases. How do you see the effects of the pandemic and almost kind of the opportunities? What do we hope to continue? Because we know that, we're still in an ongoing, situation, but how do we, some of those takeaways and how do we continue those?
I feel like there's Carlos has been in the space for a very long time, and he had the opportunity to be in person. And Carlos and I had worked on this really for 2 years. He just reminded me of this the other day. I was like, has it just been 2 years? I thought we'd been married for 4, like it was, but in a good way. And I think it's interesting to see what stays, what goes. I think you're going to be a really great part of that. Your experiences on how you see this, like Obviously, there's data, there's metrics, but it's always a nice thing to add another fresh set of perspective, especially yours, and Chloe's, to say, is this still working? Does this still have legs? I have my own biases about it. I think it does in a way where, if we're talking about learning outcomes, because we're in an academic institution, how do we reach the broadest of our families and our audience? How do we make that accessible? How do we make it equitable so that they can hear and learn more about what is here for supporting their students? And I feel like this is a good way for, our folks that like, our families that like to listen, as, uh, and like that's how they best ingested their information. I think that's one thing that I see, the growth and the gratefulness to be able to say, oh, I can listen to this rather than hear it, rather than an email, rather than my favorite, showing up on campus. And doing it. But yeah, so you're welcome to come on campus, but there's just a nice intimate way to say, oh, it's Hua from Student Fiscal Services. I heard you, Chef Tracy, or I met you, Matt Newman, or like, it's just a nice, I think, connection for both of us, like for staff, for faculty, for families. We're like, we know you, or we want to get to know you better. I think there's something about that and planting that seed. Um, we are a compassionate, lovely university, and I think sometimes we're trying to debunk that we're UW, fancy school in Seattle, D1. I mean, yes, we are all of that, but we're also nice. We are proud of that, but we are also very nice and approachable people.
That was really, what we wanted to highlight, coming out of, the in-person parent orientations that we would host, because we would have those interactions, in person, and parents and families would be able to kind of see the relationships and the connections, of, someone who might work in the counseling center having a connection with, someone who works with, housing and food services, right? Because that's a very important type of connection. And so when we moved away from in-person programming in the pandemic, right, I think being able to then focus on, like, how do we highlight these relationships? How do we, right, to continue to just demystify this university and try to explain the complexities of all of our processes. And I feel like this has been a really great thing that has added to it. I feel like, Jannah, you do such a good job in family orientation of talking about, like, we have newsletters that you can read, we have podcasts that you can listen to, we have this family orientation that you can attend live. And so, regardless of what your learning style is, regardless of how you best take in information, we have something for you. And I think that's important.
Yeah. We're just copying what the faculty does. So well, at least we're doing it in a way where, if you're hearing from folks that are advising or instructing or teaching young people, and you see the depth and breadth of how they deliver that information for comprehension, for those aha moments, why not do that for families too? And I feel like this is when we had our own aha moment of saying, okay, well, I'm not going to beat the Spotify top 10 podcast, but that's not our goal. That would be fun, but that's not our goal. Our goal is really, it's that thing that you and I, Carlos and I, Chloe and I talk about, is like, are they hearing this? Are they learning about it? Do they feel like, if their student comes with blank issue, not only are they hearing it from staff like me, you, and Carlos, not only are they hearing that from their fellow student, they're also hearing that from their family. It's like, there's people there. You have to ask. They care about you. They're really nice. Like, this is just one more kind of, part of the communications arsenal that we're trying to give our families. So there's that. And, as we continue to have these episodes, it's also really nice to hear from our staff. Like, Chloe emails our our guests an episode, the episode that she has lovingly edited and made us all funnier and prettier and nicer. But no, but they're so grateful, or they're excited, or and it kind of helps build that more reasons why they're doing what they're doing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great, and sharing it. So it's a nice thing to be able to do in our little pandemic world.
Oh my goodness, I keep thinking just the three of you and everyone else here on campus has been so welcoming this past month or so. I can't believe it's already been a month. I'm curious, selfishly, in this space, do you have any advice for me, whether it be with the podcast or in this role, or just, yeah, becoming and integrating into the UW community? That's a big question, I think, or three questions in one.
I mean, it's kind of almost repetitive in terms of what we just talked about. Is like my advice to you is really to get to know the individuals, right? Like, because that is how this university works, right? It is those relationships that we have, so that, if we get an email from a first year student who, has this roadblock because of some sort of issue on campus, the fact that you have maybe interviewed one of the staff members in that office, that relationship has been set, and you're able to then, send them a quick message to get an answer in a way that is, I think, just different from, being able to like look it up online or whatever. So I feel like it's the relationships that are like the most important. And I feel like, and Chloe mentioned this, that there are so many people on campus who are very caring, and I feel like, we work in, the first year programs office is filled with professional staff that are just like completely caring and talented, and, being able to just lean on them too, because we have such a great like office that spans functional areas, right, from logistics to curriculum to programming, all of that kind of stuff. And so I feel like that makes us such a strong office to like fall back on and to rely on. So I feel like it's the relationships across the board.
Mhm. I'd like to add those relationships serve all of us really well. I mean, I don't know. It's so much easier to cheer folks on about their work when you're feeling like there's pandemic, there's so many things, all of this stuff. But uh, these these moments where we get to have these types of conversations and hear all like actively listen to all of the stuff that they're talking about, and then giving them back some like very cool cheer squad energy. I was like, that's so great. Like, I can't believe you guys did. I just because they've been doing their work so well and doing so much that sometimes it's nice to be able to cheer them on, and connect everyone. It's like, what about, like, it seems like you guys doing a lot of great stuff for transfer students. Can you talk about that? And then just seeing them kind of wake up and kind of be very excited, I think will also really help somebody that is just starting this role. Like, you can see, like, you can take some of these little moments and say, oh my gosh, we can tie this on together and share it in this fashion. I think that's also a really nice thing to do, especially for something that is often called decentralized, often called institution. Huge. Some this being able to find ways to um, share the love is a really great thing to be able to do. I think Chloe is also really instrumental in. They're not going to listen to like director of parent and family programs. Everybody likes it. You just make it. It's easy. And, like, peer to peer, having our students, our orientation leaders, our FIG leaders, our student assistants, like, see how this is happening and saying, "Oh my gosh, they are like that." I'm like, yes. um, that's much more influential than I think I ever imagined. So I'm really glad about that particular reflection. So, yeah.
I think coming from the student perspective of it all, I would have to say it's very similar to what we would say as orientation leaders, where you do get that W of transitioning. Like everything's gonna feel very fast, and then you're gonna fall into like this pattern that you get to know of. Like it's gonna feel fast in the moment, especially right now with dog days and everything. But like once you get through that and get into the hang of it, like it will feel natural. It will feel easy. It's like that one big hump and then like a nice, like I know what I'm doing here. There might be some more like highs and lows, but like it's gonna like average out to like, oh, I'm like coasting.
That's awesome. Can I quote you on this? And like, I feel like I'm gonna like next week. Okay, Chloe, can you just repeat to me what you said in the podcast? Because I think that feels very, very true. Because I think as we talk about events that are coming up and all of the exciting opportunities, and yeah, it's a lot. It's exciting. And then I also am just really looking forward to these continued moments, talking with all of you, talking with campus partners, really learning about. Just the amazing people who work here and support UW students. So, oh my goodness, thank you, Chloe. That's great. Like we need a bumper sticker. Like, what'd you say? The highs and then okay, it'll be okay. Did we want to talk about some of the exciting events that are upcoming?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, we have to start with dog days, Carlos, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like, for parents and families, as you are getting ready to send your students off to UW, we have talked about this in family orientation, and hopefully you've received some email communications, or at least your student has, about dog days, which is our huge week of welcome. Where I think at this point we are already above 300 events that are
Oh, I
scheduled.
would say, yeah, at least 400.
Yeah, I
Oh, we're
thought
already
it's
at
higher than
400.
that.
Something. Yeah, I
I
was
think
looking
it's higher
yesterday.
than that. Oh, yeah.
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 And so, one of the things that I love the most about dog days is really the different types of events that we have, right? If your student is all about meeting people and going to the pep rallies and the concerts, we have that. But, for those students who might be a little bit more focused on, I'm going to, get ready for studying at the college level, or I just want to attend like a workshop where I can meet a small group of students. We have those small events as well. At Dog Days, we have what we call kind of meet up and go. And so that's where, we recognize that a lot of students come to University of Washington and maybe they don't have a lot of connections just yet. And so these meet up and go events happen before many of the larger events so that students can go by themselves, get connected to one of our Dog Days leaders, and then meet a smaller group of students to then go to an event with, right? And so I feel like those are some of those really important things that are happening at Dog Days. We have a student organization fair, and there are vendors throughout campus that are giving away free things, free food, free giveaways and all that kind of stuff. And so it's definitely a high energy time on campus that I think, last year when we came back from, remote instruction and we had pretty much no students on campus. There were students on campus, but, much less than normal. Last year coming back for Dog Days, that was such a great feeling and such a great energy that you can feel. So that's one thing. Dog Days is going to be my last event at the UW, and so I'm so excited to be able to experience that one more time.
Yes, I will say Dog Days is this really great, if we have different learning outcomes for how our families and our students learn, I like reading, I like writing, I like listening. Dog Days is how do you like to party and make friends? Small, away from campus. I just want to talk about academics. I'm already preparing for med school, my career. There's something for everyone on the Myers-Briggs. Like, if you are super into joining things, yes, my goodness, I'm like everything, right? If you're super into like, I just want to meet just the folks that really, really like this one super particular, wonderful niche thing, that is also there. And I think it's wonderful. And it's the most energizing start to the academic year. I also want to make sure that Carlos and like Chloe, like they do such a great job of doing this. And it's not just for first year students, like their second year students, our first gen folks, if you're an international student, and a transfer student, like you know, there is no one thing for the first year, right? It's just all of these things combined and all the intersections of how we experience this welcome week. So it's a really nice way to kind of meet a lot of different types of people. So I love it. And this year we've even figured out how to make like some of our families like to stay a little longer after they move folks in. So we even picked a few things that are kind of really great to do with or without their husky. So and we also kind of take in mind like some folks want to do football, there's a football game. Some folks want to go and explore Seattle, they'll do that. And where some folks want to see and learn about the history of UW and Husky history set, like they could do that on campus. And then, of course, Carlos, our favorite, beginning of the year convocation. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, new student convocation and Husky kickoff is those two events are some of our largest events that we host during dog days. And so we're being really intentional this year about like one of those meet up and go type situations where we're inviting all of our first year students to come and meet with either their FIG leader or their orientation leader, and then walk together in small groups over to the new student convocation ceremony. And so parents and families are invited to attend as well. These events are really meant for first year students to really celebrate the people who helped to get them there. And so if at any point you're able to make the trip to Seattle and attend new student convocation, I believe it will also be telecast.
Yes.
So if you're not in Seattle, you'll be able to watch it. And we'll include all these links. We normally include a link or a document with,
as always, resource
with
guide.
Links. Exactly. So we'll include all these links to the dog days schedule, to the parent and family schedule for dog days, as well as to new student convocation. And then after convocation, students and families will then be invited over to Husky Stadium, where we will have a whole bunch of activities. Students are able to win some prizes. And then we make the famous W formation with first year students and take that class photo. And so I feel like there's definitely a lot of really great planning that goes into that. And Emily, I know that you've been able to kind of be part of the planning conversation.
It's been fascinating. I think it was my second week where we went over to the stadium together, and I said, oh my goodness, this is part of my job now, to be a part of this Husky kickoff and convocation celebration. And as we lead up to it, I think, of all of the events, really looking toward that Sunday, the 25th, and that combination of students getting to meet up with other students beforehand, and then going in together, but then also parents and families are able to be there. And I think for me too, in thinking about that college experience, it is kind of these, rites of passage, or that's, it's the academic convocation ceremony where, the president will be there and the deans, and it's this, welcome to academic life at the University of Washington, and then also coupled with the student life too. And so again, I'm really excited for the W. I have in my office the photo from past years, and now that we can all be together a little bit more, excited for that opportunity too. So thank you, Carlos, for letting me shadow you so much in that planning.
It's been a lot of fun. I think, Chloe, you mentioned that like Husky Kickoff is like one of your favorite events as well.
I would say so. It's kind of hectic because like you do see a bunch of other first year and incoming students, but it's also a time where you get to interact with other people. And then you get to interact if you're taking a FIG, if your student's taking a FIG, you get to interact with that FIG leader, a peer educator who I will be one of them, as well as like the other people in your class before the first day of classes. So it's like a nice way for that icebreaker right before like going into classes and going into all of these courses where like it will feel hectic within the first week, but having like that pre-meeting is a nice way to just break the ice and acclimate to what's going on.
Absolutely. And, Husky kickoff and convocation are really that official start of the year. But then there's a whole bunch of events that happen throughout the year as well. And I know, Jannah, you're also getting ready for Family Weekend, which is coming up in October.
We're just making sure families know that there's just continued waves of, of family engagement and events. Last year, we actually, obviously during the pandemic, we had to pause. What was lovingly called Parent and Family Weekend is now called UW Family Weekend because we have a lot of grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings that come along. Last year was actually our for like let's do it, and we had 1,700 families come. We had a cap of 1,500. Guess who let the other 200 folks in? Because I'm a softie. This year. Due to pent-up fund demand, we have over 4,500 families coming. 3,000 are coming for the weekend. 1,500 are just coming for the tailgate. Hello, in the homecoming game. So clearly, this is something that everyone loves to kind of come to. We do it a little bit earlier. We used to do this in the spring. We now do it in the fall. Family Weekend we also have figured out that this is something about you spending time with your husky. So if there's any, it's a little bit after the start of autumn quarter, after the frenetic fun energy of the campus move-in and convocation, when those back to school checklists, the what to bring and not to bring, and all of the things that come along with that kind of burst of energy and like preparation. You have this little bit of moment of calm. We ask you to come to Family Weekend just a little bit, right when they're about to miss you. And then we have this weekend, and it's been really, really great. Emily said that this is a Division I school. I don't know if folks all know what that means. That means that we play in like the Pac-12, big leagues, and all of those things that come along with the rah-rah. And we have this really great homecoming game, and it's really about figuring out what you want to do. So what we didn't want to do during Family Weekend is like, let's shift 4,000 people from one room to another. It's really about them re-exploring campus through the eyes of their new student, to the eyes of their second-year student, to the eyes of the juniors and the seniors who are about to say goodbye to this place because they're like starting to think about what's going on. And it's been a really fun thing to also engage folks into, hey, what's fun for Huskies to do during the weekend? Football. You can learn archery. You can do some climbing. You can also just do some shopping. That's always fun for folks. 20% off discount for the entire weekend for everybody. But and say hello and meet some really great folks like the campus, like President Anamari Kause, who may or may not be walking around during move-in, but you'll at least know that she's going to have her own party to welcome all of you. And there's this thing that we love to do that's kind of a growing tradition called W Day, which is like this fun Friday carnival aspect of campus where there's lots of booths, there's lots of free stuff. You got to line up to get the free stuff. Make your student line up for you to get those free things. Cupcakes, sweaters. So like it's just a nice way to activate campus in the same vein and spirit of dog days. So hopefully that helps with, oh my gosh, there's like a ding dong win. Sorry about that, everybody. That's Family Weekend. All the dogs can come. And, obviously Family Weekend isn't the only thing that we're going to do. We're going to make sure they stay connected with our parent insider. Every month I say hello to you, check in with you, to check in with your student. We also have some really great campus events like our annual address from our president, Anamari Kase. You'll be invited to that. If you like basketball, we'll have family weekend during the winter in Seattle. Come check out the men and women's basketball. And if those things don't fit your schedule, every month I'll have some really great ideas of when to visit, some great events that you and your husky can do whenever it fits your family schedule. So it's always a nice thing to have. So yeah, staying connected. We're not dropping you after orientation session. We're going to keep hearing from us. So that's, and making sure you feel welcomed and checking in on your husky. Yeah. I think this is my time to ask, like, we're probably wrapping up. I'm getting a little emotional because I feel like I have to say goodbye to my partner in crime and also my other partner in crime as we end the season. Emily, I hope you don't mind if I can take the mic this way and say, uh, I wanted to talk about how this has been very meaningful for me to be able to work with Carlos and Chloe during season 2. I'm often doing just all these like hijink jokes and cackles and stuff like that, and maybe it doesn't feel like it's very serious, but I would wanted to talk about how this has been really impactful to me, and I'm so grateful to have worked with you. And I don't think that we will stop working with each other because I just feel like it's not something that it's more like a toodaloo rather than a goodbye. Oh my God. So I just wanted to ask what are, if there's any future plans, and my favorite, because we always end with an advice section, advice for me, advice for Emily. I don't know if it's like less cackles, whatever. You guys, it's your you're on the mic. It doesn't have to be 4 things because we always ask like, what are the 4 things? Like, you can just tell us what you're going to do next. Tell your fans what you guys are doing next. Oh my gosh. This is the pause because it's very emotional. Sorry.
Okay. Future plans after this. I mean, I alluded to a lot of it earlier on, that I will be continuing working with the first year programs, not necessarily within the same capacity as I've had these prior summers, but I will be a peer educator next quarter working with the FIG leaders. I will also be a student assistant, working within the first year programs office, as well as the commuter and transfer commons within the hub. So I'll be within those central areas and like around there. As far as academics go, I am graduating within the spring.
Oh I'm sorry.
Okay. I am basically wrapped up with all of my major work. I only have 3 classes left to take, and then after that it's like what I've been told is just take credits to fill the 180. So I will be taking miscellaneous classes or classes and courses that I've been wanting to take, but was like, I need to prioritize my major. So just really manifesting and hoping that Drama 171, the Broadway musicals class, gets offered in winter. I've been wanting to take that since I was a freshman, but then I had other winter like things that needed to be prioritized in order of like, okay, my major needs me to do this so I can be on the track that I have in my head, because everybody's like career planning is different. So yeah, I don't have anything lined up past graduation right now, but that is just for the next couple of quarters, I will say, is the plan for that.
Well, I'm hopeful that you'll get into the Broadway musicals class. I love Broadway musicals, and I'm surprised we haven't connected about this yet, so I will look forward to talking more.
You know, Chloe was part of that group of orientation leaders who were hired in before the pandemic, and then made that transition to online family orientation, and was there through all of the different things that we just talked about. And so, like, Chloe, it will be so you will be missed so much. And thank you for all of your work and your ideas and everything like that. I feel like you have definitely increased the quality of the programming that we've been able to offer through this time. So thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. I'm going to be going to whatever production big mogul thing that you're going to do, and will always be the weird auntie cheerleader for you. You know that.
I don't think it will ever be like a big mogul production, because I don't know, that's scary. But also I'm more of, in my head, thinking nonprofits, and more of like a connecting on like a one-on-one level in documentary. Those have always been more my jive and jazz of it all, instead of like fictional work and like all of that. It's not really like the same amount of passion in those compared to like the real and interacting with people.
All right, Carlos, this is your chance. I don't know. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, I had mentioned that, Dog Days is kind of my last event. My final day at the university is going to be September 30th. So that's that first week of classes. And so, my husband is he's an officer in the Navy. So we were stationed out in San Diego. So we actually closed on a house in Chula Vista, and so we'll be living in kind of the South Bay area of San Diego. And I'm currently job searching, so looking at a lot of learning and development type positions, both in higher ed and maybe even outside higher ed. Pretty open to that. So yeah, hopefully by the time this episode is released, right, there might be some other news. But yeah, so that's really my plan right now. And it's been really great being able to work with this team in particular, right? Like I work on several different teams, but this one is definitely special in terms of, Jannah being able to partner with you all these years, and kind of weathering that really unexpected and we just didn't really know what was going to happen as we went through the pandemic. And so it's been really great to have this group to rely on and to laugh with. It has been...
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that's it, folks. The Love Fest episode of Husky Huddle Up Podcast. And thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you so much for everybody here. It's obviously been extremely impactful to everyone to be a part of this, and we hope that you have you feel the same, and tune in for season 3. The Emily season. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the pressure.
You all are in good hands for sure.
Yes.
All right, folks.
Okay.
Well, best of luck in your first year. Welcome to Husky family.
The Husky Huddle Up Podcast is a collaboration between the University of Washington first-year programs and parent and family programs to provide parents and families equitable access to information in support of their student success. The Husky Huddle Up is produced by me, Chloe Jiselle, a senior in the UW Cinema and Media Studies program.